Okay, welcome back to the AeroBear podcast, episode 4. This is the take number 2 of this episode because we tried a different, well, let's just say I tried a different technology, tried recording it last night. That did not work. We got 20, 25 minutes into the recording and it failed dramatically. Anyway, we're back. I'm Isaac Lopez and joined from Wisconsin, of all places, our co-hosts. Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves?
I'm Bear Lopez.
I'm Patrick Lopez.
There we go. We've got people on assignment now for this massive production. Before we go any further, if you want to follow Bear and all of his racing endeavors, follow him on Strava. He posts there very frequently, and he's going to be traveling soon to Europe, so it's going to be really cool to stay on top of that. So Bear Lopez on Strava, and then go to his Gifts and Go to support him and his racing, his fundraising over there to support his racing coming up. And that'll be linked in the show notes. And then last but definitely not least, make sure you subscribe to Barry's YouTube channel. And if you're listening to this podcast, you are at his YouTube channel. So without further ado, we are going to jump into what we're going to talk about today. Bear just wrapped up the Toad series, the Tour of America Dairyland. 4 days, four different races in 4 different towns. So we're going to recap that, and then we're going to look ahead at the Tour de France and preview the American riders. Just for those of you listening, some of you may not be aware of the riders for the U.S. on different teams, and we just kind of want to look at that and just kind of catch you up, get you up to speed on that. So without further ado, let's jump in. Bear, how did it go?
It went all right. Not amazing. Not what I was probably hoping for going in, but it was a good chance for improvement and just kind of working on riding in this level of junior field and learning positioning. And definitely got a lot more out of this than I did at Redlands.
That's good. I mean, we were talking about it on the first cut of this episode that this is certainly not your strength. Criteriums just aren't your strength. So I'm going to steal Dad's question from last night, but what can you take from races like this?
Yeah, and like I said to a question last night, the big thing with crits is that if you're not really suited for them, it's a chance for you to practice being as efficient as you possibly can be. So it's really you have a lot of like road tactics boiled down into one really condensed like 50 minutes of racing. And so any effort that you can save anywhere is really going to add up throughout. And if you can take those lessons that you can learn in crits, such as conditioning, positioning, handling, and just trying to be as efficient as possible with accelerations, that's really going to benefit you in a multi-hour road race where being able to be efficient over several hours is really going to make a difference in how much you can put out in the last 30 minutes.
Totally right. So take me into the moments, right? Let's break it down by the moments where you're kind of learning different aspects of this lesson in each race, because it sounded like there were different moments in each race where you were challenged with different aspects that you're just talking about.
Yeah. Like in the first race, the big thing is obviously positioning and just kind of gain a feel for the quality of field as well. And so it was just kind of sorry, lost my train of thought when that went off. Yeah, it was just trying to get used to the quality of field and learning to position. And the first day was just learning why you don't tail gun. Because it's the pack stretches out so far around each corner that the farther back you are, the more amplified the effort it is just to catch back up through a corner. Um,
Explain tail gunning.
Tail gunning basically means it's a method of riding in the peloton where you're staying closer to the back so that you have a little more room to see what the field's doing. It's less risky in the factor that you're less likely to get caught up in a crash with the field. You're more able to read like where a crash might happen and avoid it. But you also are spending more energy because you're not in the middle of the pack where you're gonna get the most draft. Um, so that's what I've been doing, and that's what I have to avoid a bit more in these races where the field is so much stronger. I need to take that maybe increased risk of the crash, and just in order to be able to stick with the group for a whole pack.
Yeah, I think the risks of crashing, like I don't know if people really understand that. So talk me through some of those crashes that almost caught you out, because you had a couple close calls.
Yeah. I was just actually going through this footage last night. Um, yeah, I mean, the big thing is obviously whenever you see the field go from that two, three, or even just one wide, long, thin line of riders, and all of a sudden it bunches up into that seven or eight across, that's when you know something might go down right there. So there was two or three times this week where the pace slowed. Bunch of guys are trying to get back up to the front after having sat a little bit farther back for a while. And that's when you hit a corner sign and someone just misjudged something or pushes it too far trying to get through a corner. And that's where the crashes happen. So the important thing there is if you are going to be in that main group, you want to be close to the front or with a squad that's going to be kind of around you that you all can trust each other to take those corners well.
You end up with a
Right.
lot trying to move up at the same time, and that creates a lot of. There just isn't enough space for everybody to move up at once.
Everyone wants to be in the top 30 positions, but when there's 90 riders, not everyone can be in the top 30.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that was interesting. I can't remember which race it was, but there is pretty much a standstill corner, and some riders went down around it. I don't know if that's why they came to a standstill, but it was a really tight hairpin in the middle of the town. And some riders were just on the deck when the cameras caught up. So I don't know if they fell over because of the sudden stop, because they're six wide. So but Bear, walk us through each day, and then also what town you were in, because they were in four separate cities, right?
Um, it's hard to say. More like neighborhoods. Um,
Okay.
Yeah, it's all generally Milwaukee suburbs.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Area of Milwaukee. So I think the farthest we had to drive was an hour, and but most the other three races were about 30 minutes. And we're in Waukesha, which is another suburb of Milwaukee. So we're basically in the greater Milwaukee area where all these races are. Some of them are independent cities, but many of them are like little villages within Milwaukee, where it's still a Milwaukee address. But some really nice communities,
yeah.
and they do a really good job of putting the race together here.
Yeah. Yeah, so I kind of talked about like what I took away from the first day. The second day was arguably the toughest for me. I think it was the Clock Tower Classic is what they called it because it's in like this courtyard between buildings. So it's a half-mile course and super explosive. It's got one little rise that you do out of a corner that we were doing like I was doing like 850 watts out of, which is a lot for
That's
someone at my
wild.
and I was doing that repeatedly out of the corner.
Yeah, for
Um,
someone who weighs 60 pounds, that's a lot of output.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it was a really tough one for me. And if you weren't if you aren't like strong enough to be able to move up in that, which it was going to take a lot of effort for me to move up, you really needed to be at the front to start. And as I said, I was stuck at the back for that one. And quickly found out that I just didn't have the legs to put out that kind of output lap after lap. So after a
And
couple,
those laps were like 57, 58 seconds a lap.
yeah,
So it was that explosion out of that turn every minute.
yeah,
Right.
and so with
Yeah.
four corners, it's four sprints every minute just
Yeah.
to back of the group. So really brutal. I think I got pulled after 5 6 minutes. Just and guys were getting pulled. I think, like I said yesterday, like every lap. It was just crazy.
Right, because there's no way, like you can't get lapped on something like that, right? I'm assuming like that's why they pull,
Yeah, because it's such a tight
which is too
road
confusing.
with so many riders. Yeah, because I don't know if I mentioned this, but it's like a single lane road as well. So there's not much room at all. So you can't. I think they had a crash earlier in the day when they didn't pull someone quick enough, and I think the group lapped them, and then there was a crash because you have one slower guy going through a corner with tons of guys trying to compete for spots on the
Right.
inside. Just just causes havoc. So that was the second day. The third day was a little bit better. It was that the course, it's like an M with the line across the bottom. So you have the long finish straight, and then you have the zigzag on the back. And that one, I had decent position early, but then a crash that I had to go wide around this like 120-degree bend. Um, that was the one where we come to almost a standstill around going through it. And a guy hit the ground there. I'm assuming he got his wheel crossed or something with someone trying to move up. And yeah, I had to go really wide and lost like all my momentum through that corner. So ended up like mid pack to the back of it again. And I think I held on until like 11 to go, 10 to go before I finally dropped. Yeah, that was a cool course. It had one really rough section right before the finish straight that was just really patched up road. So I didn't really feel comfortable getting out of the saddle to sprint on it just because I was worried. I think I had my front wheel pop up briefly at one point. Just that kind of bumpy.
Wow.
Um, Other than that, it was a pretty fun course and really great spectator course because there's multiple places where you can see the riders without really moving.
Right,
Um,
right. But let's pause on that, Dad. You had a couple spectator stories, and some advice for people viewing races, especially criteriums.
Yeah, I mean they do a great, like I said, Toad does a great job of putting these races on, and they close off all the roads. They're completely blocked. Even driveways, entrances, they try to close off everything, and they clearly communicate with the community so people understand they can't pull out of their driveway, that kind of stuff. Um, but they can't fence the entire route because they're in these cities, and so people will just think things are clear. And I think Bear was telling a story yesterday about a buddy of his got dropped just a little bit off the main pack, and the main pack goes by, and somebody tried to just go across the road and darn near took him out because he
Oh my
was,
word.
and he's going all out with his head down, not expecting somebody to come in
Right.
off the road. So yeah, so if you're at these, they have crosswalks where they will supervise you and say go and don't go, and that's the safest thing to do. People will cross at other places, but boy, just be cautious because you just would feel horrible if you're responsible for taking out a cyclist. So
Yeah, especially at that speed. I mean, Bear knows a little bit about hitting the deck at that speed, but man. Um, so if you're attending races, have your head on a swivel, even if you're not racing. Yeah, like even more importantly, if you're not racing. Bear. So last day, last race was Friday. Is that correct?
yeah.
Okay.
And that was, I think the first and fourth, the first day and the last day were probably the hottest. I think it was like 90 degrees with, I don't know what the humidity was, but it probably made it feel significantly more than that. So was just trying to stay hydrated throughout the day. On that race, I actually had decent position for a while. And I was actually feeling all right, but my heart rate was just skyrocketing. So I think that's just shows the amount of effort it takes even when you're in that position, but also the heat and the humidity also probably contributed to that rising. I think I hit 207 in
Wow.
that race rate and was over 200 for significant stretches. There was one big crash there around a corner where they have these patches on the finish straight where they patch the road, and it's was it concrete road with
yeah,
these black concrete patches, and you can see just little like rocks that have broken off from that patch that are just kind of loose. And I'm assuming that's what someone hit around a corner is they just slid
Oh
out.
no.
So we had a fairly big crash there. It took out probably 20 or so guys that I think most of them were able to get to the neutral service, hit the pit, and then jump back on the next lap. So, and that I don't think there was any major injuries in that crash.
Good,
Um,
good.
I eventually I was in decent position, but you have to keep moving up because riders are dropping behind you, and so when you might be in like the front of the back third, all of a sudden you're just at the back without really anyone passing you. So eventually, just a guy in front of me opened the wheel. We were both pretty cooked, and I was kind of hoping he would close it, and I didn't have the legs to close it when he didn't.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think we dropped with 7 or 8 to go in that race, and I was just empty after that.
Wow, man. Well, I mean, having those races so quickly back to back, and I know you're saying they're short efforts, and we've talked about that how uh, like the fueling strategy you had going into the week. It seemed like that was pretty much habitual. Like you didn't change many habits in between each race. Is that correct? Was there anything that you added in that you hadn't at other races like Redlands, where it's a 3 day effort?
Yeah, I mean, like day to day here at Wisconsin was pretty much the same. Yeah, we didn't change much at all.
Every day was there was no change from day to day. Whereas Redlands, it was different types of races. They weren't the same each day. Here, it was you knew it was going to be a 50-minute intense effort each day at the exact same time. So it was we were able to get into a
Yeah,
pretty good routine.
that was the nice thing that I really appreciate here was the fact that our races were at 1:30 every day. And of course, we had some delays every now and then, but in general, they always had scheduled for 1:30, which made it much easier to get into a routine each day and wake up at the same time, eat close to the same time, and all that.
And they scheduled the thunderstorms for early in the day, and so they cleared out
Yeah,
before the races. I don't know how they did that,
That's
and I think
that's incredible.
yeah.
yeah, for the crews that were riding earlier in the day, I don't know how it worked out for them, but it was perfect for us.
I mean, the race organizers have some insane power, apparently. Okay, well, we've got more to get to. I'm going to pause for our first ad read because this podcast is now sponsored by Cleve Coffee. You need better coffee, Bear. Do you even know when your coffee was roasted? If your beans are old enough to file taxes, we have a problem. Cleve Coffee is the Inland Northwest's newest coffee roaster, bringing you fresh roasted coffee twice a week. No mystery blends, just single origin, organic beans that taste like dark chocolate doing backflips through citrus sunshine. Sip once, and your grocery store grounds will feel like instant regret. Sip, smile, repeat. Cleve Coffee. Use code AeroBear, that's AeroBear, at checkout to get 20% off your entire order. Be sure to go check them out. Link is in the description. And yeah, can't speak more, can't speak highly enough about Andrew Butterbush, who founded Cleve Coffee. He's actually the guy who put together Bear's trailer on YouTube. So if you also need videography and marketing needs, I'd reach out to him as well. But yeah, huge shout out to Andrew. And we're going to play a quick video element that he put together for the podcast just for Bears podcast. So we'll roll that. Okay, we're back. Let's talk about the American riders of the Tour de France, just so people know their names who are listening to this podcast. I mean, some people will already know them, but there's some really cool tie-ins. We just got
Just
three riders.
three.
Well,
Easy to remember.
okay. Why don't you go ahead and rattle them off, Dad?
Well, you got it's Palace, right?
Yep.
Nielsen Palace, riding for
Yeah.
EF, right? The one technically American team, yeah, but with one American rider, and then two American riders on Visma, maybe the strongest team in the race. So, but that is it. Just three Americans. So
You gotta
Really?
name
Yeah, yes, and the two, the two American riders are Sepp Kuss and
Mateo.
Matteo Jorgensen from our home state of Idaho.
Yeah, and he's based out of Boise, right?
Yeah, well, not anymore, but yeah, he grew up in Boise.
Okay,
He lives just like all the rest of them now, living in Europe. So
that's really cool. So Brandon McNulty's not riding for UAE.
he is not riding at the tour this year.
I think he was at the
Okay,
G.
see,
Yeah.
we'll go with that on this. I did type into ChatGPT last night. They gave me six riders, so that's good to know.
Who are they?
The other two were Quinn Simmons and Magnus Sheffield.
Ooh, that's true.
Unless something's changed, I was going off of the tour roster where you can put
The
in.
rider list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're not there. So they could have been on a
I
pre-list.
do think Quinn Simmons should be there because, well, I don't know. I think it was still up in the air at Tour de Suisse. He was trying to race well there to kind of make a case for him being on the tour squad, but I don't think it was planned for him to be on the tour squad yet.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I trust Dad's research much more than some AI bot. So I do think it's really interesting because Mateo and Kus, we talked about in I can't remember which episode it was. I think it was last episode. They both have the opportunity to finish top 10. I mean, Kus has won the Giro, right?
Volta.
Volta, thank you. But they'll be pulling for Vingegaard. So, do you think of those three, do you think any of them have the chance to win a stage at the tour?
Um, Probably Palace. Well,
Okay,
just because I think responsibilities wise, it's going to be tough for Kuss and Jorgensen to have a chance to win a stage. I think there's some decent rolling terrain in the first like week and a half of the tour. So I think that's something that Palace will probably just slip into a breakaway and grab a stage.
And that's EF's objective, right? They're there to try to
right.
get stages, and so they look for those opportunities. Whereas Mateo and Sepp are there to serve their team, and they'll have key roles, and you'll probably see them at the front of the peloton a lot, but not very often at the end of the stage. Yeah.
Yeah, oftentimes you'll see, at least in the Criterium du Dauphiné, if they repeat the same tactics, there'll be satellite riders. I know Kus went out a couple times up ahead on the road, at least attempted to. Poggi always tracked him down. But so we'll get plenty of camera time for American riders. So that's really cool. Um, are there uh, anything? So
Just,
no other. Yeah, go
just a
ahead.
note on that, on the number of riders. When you think only three, it sounds like that's not very many. There's only a handful of countries that have a lot of riders, right? There's only two that have more than like 7 or 8 riders, and that's Belgium and what's the other one? There, Norway, Belgium or Norway, um, or Belgium and France. I'm sorry, Belgium and France
Okay.
have the largest numbers, right? Everybody else, 7 is a lot. And then a lot of countries just have one or two. So I think America probably should, we would hope to get back to where we're one of those 8 countries with 8, 7 or 8 riders in it. Maybe 10 would be awesome, but that would be a big change. But like I said, that's unusual. There's a lot of riders and they're from everywhere, so it's hard to earn a spot.
Yeah, I think it's good for American cycling to get back on the map a little bit. And these, I mean, all three of these are relatively young. They're upper 20s.
Yeah, that sounds
I
right.
don't think anyone's over 30. Okay, yeah, and the peloton just seems to be a lot younger this year, or the
Yeah.
last few years, at least all the contenders. Well, Bear, you're about to ship off to Europe Saturday. Today?
Today,
When, today?
Saturday.
Wow. So we're recording this on Saturday, June 28th. We'll probably release it in a day or two. But Bear, how are the legs feeling after all the racing? And yeah, we'll get to the next question in a second.
Yeah, got out to spin a little bit this morning. A little sore, obviously, but not too bad. Just kind of nice to just spin easy for a little bit and kind of shake the legs out before the flight.
Cool. And then when you land, how long will you have before the team training camp starts?
Well, I mean, once we land, we'll be with the squad pretty much immediately.
Okay,
So from then on, we ride whenever the team's riding. So I guess
cool.
as soon as we touch down, team training camp starts and we're racing together.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Are you flying out with your team or are you just
I think
meeting meeting in Ireland?
there's a couple guys on the same flight as me, but
Cool.
I mean, there's guys I think flying in from like Connecticut as well. So not everyone's gonna be on the same flight, but we all will be getting in the same day.
Sweet. Well, that's really exciting. Really stoked that you'll be a part of a team finally, working together. And that racing experience is going to be totally different than what you've had to do over the last 80 to 90 races. So that's pretty sweet. Are there any final thoughts before I let you guys go?
No?
No, I
Okay.
think Bear's just excited to get out and do some road racing and some international competition and gain that experience. And the biggest event now is putting them on a plane. So we got to get packed up here and get to Chicago and get on a plane tonight. And tomorrow morning, we'll wake up in Ireland.
Yeah. Well, best of luck, Bear. Really stoked for you. And we're gonna record as we can. See if I can find a good software. Maybe we use Zoom like we are using right now. To just get updates from you on the road, and then obviously we got to talk tour because that's coming up, and you'll be out for the whole time. So, well, with that, remember share this podcast, subscribe to AeroBear. Make sure you go donate to Bear if you want to support him financially on Gifts and Go, and then follow Bear on Strava. I can't stress this enough. It's super cool. It's a great platform. You'll get to see Bear racing in Europe. It's Ireland, then Belgium. He's gone for 6 weeks, so it's going to be a lot of exciting times for Bear. And keep your eyes on this YouTube channel because there's going to be a lot of great footage coming out. Lots of good shorts content, and we'll keep the podcast going and Bear will post as you can. So with that, Bear, why don't you send us out?
This has been the AeroBear podcast. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Bear, and I like to ride bikes. When I was a kid, I stood in the shadows of giants, the Tour de France, the legends, the climbs. I was hooked. Now, I race in the Pacific Northwest. Rain, heat, snow, I'm still riding. It's about the pursuit of improvement, the grind, the grade, the summit. My goals? Nationals, Europe. How high can I go? I'm Bear Lopez, riding, climbing.